Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer. And now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor on this Tuesday morning. Today we're talking about business, and a business that's a very important one here to the Central Valley. It's a farm just west of Fresno, and what to do about the lack of water. This drought continues. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Call in. We'll take your calls. Turn down the sound. And we're back here on the program on this Tuesday morning. You're watching us on Comcast channel 187 and 43.6 this morning. And now, of course, you're watching us on 13.1. That's ME-TV as well. And, of course, the replays happen each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock on YouTube. That's 13.6. And then Biz TV 13.5. That starts at 8 o'clock tonight. So if you missed the program, hey, you can always watch it again. And we'll be here for the full 60 minutes up until 11 o'clock. You can call us at 436-ME-TV, option 11. Once again, the focus today is on water. And the California drought, of course, continues. No rain in sight, although it did rain a little bit yesterday for about, 5 minutes? Enough to dirty the cars and dirty the windshield and dirty the windows in your house on the outside. Farmers, though, at this point, having to dig deep underground to get their water supply. I want to roll the videotape and show you exactly what I'm talking about here today. At least those who have the resources to do so, like this farm. Oh, it's about 45 minutes outside of Fresno and just west of Mendota. It's a family farm owned by the Stephanopoulos family. Usually, the state of California provides the produce farm here with some water coming in from the aqueduct, but not this year, according to what they say. Not a chance, not in these dry conditions. And so 2 water options came into play for this place. Number 1, groundwater. That's a very common source here. But number 2, about 6,000 acre-feet of carryover water. We'll ask our guest what that means exactly in this segment. But in the meantime, keep in mind that lawmakers in Sacramento are trying to regulate how much groundwater you can actually tap into. Whether or not that's going to happen remains to be seen. In most years, groundwater amounts to about 35 to 45% of the state's water supplies. But now this year, the last couple of years, it's amounted to about 60%. Most groundwater is used for crops, but those basins are being depleted, and in some parts of the Central Valley, the groundwater levels are plunging by 60 feet, and the ground is beginning to sink in some parts, according to some experts. This farm has a lot. It's got cantaloupes, it has sweet corn, bell peppers, honeydew melons, and pistachios. Live in our studio right now is Chuck Dees, and irrigation coordinator for the farm, and Spiros Stephanopoulos. His family owns the farm. His father owns much of what's out there, and so they are here today to talk about the effects and what effect the drought is having on the family farm, what effect the drought is having on the state of California, specifically the Central Valley. You can weigh in, 436-ME-TV, option 11. You know, we've shown you that drone video how many times? About 1,001 times on this show now. Millerton Lake, the drought situation over at Millerton. Very few boats out there this past week. It was Labor Day, of course, about a week ago, and there were very few people out there. We're back on this program, Connect with Me, on ME-TV Fresno in a moment.
It's Sully and Russ on the Big Biz Show.
It's your biz.
And maybe they'll start listening to Baldwin
Now,
McCullough.
before you make any money moves, check in with the Brain Trust.
And you are starting your week off right.
Back here on the program, Connect with Me. Water is the topic of the day here. It has been many, many times on this program. And again, today we're going to focus on one place, one farm that has a lot on its plate. It has cantaloupes, honeydew melons, pistachios, and so they do it all out there. And how are they getting it done? Where's the water coming from? Chuck Dees is here from the farm. How are you, sir?
Great.
Good to see you. Spiro?
Good morning, John.
Good. How's the family? Good?
Very good, thank you.
All right. Thanks for showing up, guys. So, you guys get most of your water from the ground, I guess, huh? Or all of it, I guess, at this point.
Well, we get at least 90% of the water is coming from the wells right now. We can produce about 110 acre feet a day, and during the course of the year, we need 30 to 40,000 acre feet of water to grow our crops. If we don't have that water, of course, we don't grow the crops.
Yeah.
And this year, we put about 2,500 acres aside because we can't grow because we don't have the water.
I talked in the monologue about carryover water. Spiro, what does that mean? Carryover water from years past, and if so, where does this water get stored?
The Bureau of Reclamation allows us to reschedule water that was unused from the previous irrigation year, and we are allowed to use that up until a certain point. But we're not necessarily guaranteed 100% of that water.
And we've got some video of the California Aqueduct showing that's where you get some of your water from, but not this year. You've had to use the carryover water. So when the video comes up, explain where this aqueduct is located. It says California Aqueduct right there. Where is this specifically located in relation to your farm, which is just west of Mendota?
We farm a great percentage east of the California Aqueduct. The majority of our farm is just east of the aqueduct, and there's a smaller percentage just west of the aqueduct.
Okay, so that's what it looked like yesterday as we were out there videotaping. That's how much water's in there now, right? Is that a lot, a little? Is it on the medium side?
Well, you got to remember that the aqueduct is carrying water to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
It's carrying water to many users all along the valley. And so the amount of water that you see in the aqueduct is not indicative at all of how much water is available to the farmers. Very little of that water that you see going down that aqueduct is accessible to the farmers.
Would it be illegal to use any of that water?
It would be illegal for you to dip into it, and it's very, very carefully controlled.
By the state of California?
By the state of California, Department of Water Resources. They watch that water very carefully.
And how far away is this aqueduct, Spiro, from the family farm?
It's relative. It's very close. Like I said earlier, we farm on both sides of the aqueduct, so many times of the day we have to cross the aqueduct. So it's right there. It's visible to us on a constant basis.
Yeah.
So.
Now the carryover water is in the. You can use it, but only a certain amount that's carried over from the previous year, right?
It's an amount that is unused from ourselves, but we are not guaranteed necessarily that whole amount of water that we reschedule for the following year.
I
necessarily.
See. I see. So if they owe you 5,000 acre feet of water from the previous year, there's no guarantee you're going to get that.
There's not, no. And that percentage of water, whether it's 100% or 50% or 0% of the rescheduled water, has to be used by a certain date.
Or
otherwise you lose it entirely. Yes.
Really?
That's correct.
And you pay for it on top of losing it.
And you pay for it.
You pay for it and you lose it on top of that.
That's correct.
So that's legal to do that, I guess, huh?
Well, that's the way the rules are.
That's the way the rules are written. And so have you lost any of that aqueduct water because you haven't been able to use it?
No, we're very, very careful about that.
Okay.
And I guarantee you, we use every drop that we have that's available to us and that we can legally use.
Is it difficult having a farm? I mean, what's the size of the farm? How many acres out there?
Well, we farm about 16,500 acres right now.
I was just going to ask, is it difficult as we roll another piece of videotape here of the family farm? You can roll any one of these. You have pistachios, you have cantaloupes. I want to see some farming out there. Is it difficult to farm 16,000 acres, go over that aqueduct every day and see how much water's in there and not be able to use it?
No, we fully understand. We understand the conditions of the drought. We understand that a certain amount of water is available to us, and we make the best of it.
Yeah. These are pistachios here, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And how many of those do you produce a year?
We started planting pistachios very vigorously in 2003, and we haven't really stopped up until now, and we're continuing to plant pistachios.
How much water does a pistachio tree need? A lot? A little?
A pistachio tree doesn't require as much water as an almond tree. Although a pistachio tree is less sensitive to some of the groundwater that is supplied because of the alkaline and the chlorides, we can get away with using more groundwater to irrigate our pistachios versus an almond tree where it requires around 4 acre-feet per year, and it's extremely sensitive to water. So we have a little flexibility.
We're looking at the drip system here, I'm assuming, for the water. And you use the drip system to a certain extent to water your crops. And so what crops do you water with the drip system?
Well, we water just about every crop with drip. As a matter of fact, 100%. However, we do use sprinkler irrigation, and we use furrow irrigation in certain cases.
Explain what the furrow irrigation is.
Okay, on the sweet corn, it's pretty necessary for us to use the furrow irrigation because sweet corn is a very shallow-rooted crop, and it requires a lot of water, and it has to be right there in the root zone. So it requires frequent irrigation by furrow.
All right. Spiro, look up there on the monitor. That's furrow irrigation, is it not?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And how is that different from the sprinkler irrigation or the drip system?
Well, we use sprinkler irrigation to germinate our crops, so we run sprinkler lines so that we can evenly, in the case of sweet corn, where sweet corn is harvested only one time, we have to be very specific about germinating our sweet corn so that everything comes up at once. We don't want any variance in germination, so everything's done with sprinkler irrigation from that aspect. Once the plant becomes 1.5 feet to 2 feet tall, sweet corn is a crop that requires a lot of water, and we have found in the past that we can't necessarily produce a mature corn crop with marketable ears, but just by using the underground drip system. So we supply the crop with ample water from furrow irrigation.
Oh, so the furrow irrigation comes in if the sprinkler system or the drip system is not adequate enough.
And we have felt that it is not, so we use that as a protocol for irrigating sweet corn.
Yeah, more water from the aqueduct we're looking at here, both the east and west side of that you farm on. And so, and of course, we're looking at the sprinkler system here on what crops?
That is germinating broccoli.
Okay.
Broccoli is a crop that we grow in the wintertime. We start planting broccoli in August, and this broccoli that you see here will be harvested before Christmas.
It will?
Yes.
Okay, so you have broccoli out there too. We got to take a break, but we are talking with Chuck Dees and Spiro Stephanopoulos of the family farm out there on the west side, and it's near Mendota. It's about 45 minutes outside of Fresno, where we're talking about the drought here in the state of California in the Central Valley, how it's affected everyone. We're going to dive into the subject of going underground and getting the water, because it's what every farmer is having to do now in this drought condition. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Call in. We're back in a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
Back here on the program, connect with me, 436-ME-TV, option 11. Call in, talking about the California drought. And there is so much talk about diving in underground to get that well water. And we have some video of a deep well. How many wells do you have out there on the family farm?
Right now we have 18, and we're in the process of drilling 4 more to take care of our needs. And those won't be drilled until probably Christmas time or later.
You know, the National Geographic, they recently published a story about groundwater and what it's doing to the state of California. And I just want to read you something as we take a look at one of your wells here. And how deep are you having to go, by the way, Spiro, before I get into what the National Geographic said?
We've drilled as deep as 1,250 feet.
1,250 feet.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
As opposed to what were you doing before? I
think years and years ago, when my father was first on the ranch, I think it was difficult. At that point, it wasn't necessarily to drill that deep. Oftentimes, some of the older wells have gone 800, 700 feet. But we felt that by going deeper, the quality of water is better at that depth. We're having to spend more money to get to that depth, obviously.
Let me just read you a quick quote from the National Geographic, and they did a study about groundwater and what effect it's having in California. They call it the new gold rush. It's the new California gold rush of the 2000s. And it says relying on groundwater to make up for shrinking surface water supplies comes at a rising price, and this hidden water found in California's Central Valley aquifers is the focus of what amounts to be a new gold rush. In other words, what they're saying is water is almost as valuable, if not more, than gold. Would you agree?
You have to understand that water is being paid for at the rate of $2,000 an acre foot in some cases. Now, some people may not realize how much $2,000, or they know what $2,000 is, but an acre foot of water is 325,000 gallons of water.
What are we looking at there, by the way, Spiro?
This is a typical pump station. This is a series of filters, of sand media filters that are used to filter the water, whether it's water that we receive from the aqueduct or water that comes out of our wells. So it is filtered through this process before it goes through the drip irrigation lines.
Right, and I want to read you one more thing out of the National Geographic. It said the Central Valley wells that used to strike water at 500 feet deep must now be drilled to more than 1,000, and you've already addressed how far you go down, at a cost of more than $300,000 just for a single well. And is that pretty much accurate?
No,
in terms of the price?
That's not quite accurate. 1,200-foot well will cost you $425,000 just to get the hole. And then you have to put a pump in it, and then you have to put the electrical in, and the VFD and all that. You're ending up with $600,000 to have a well that'll produce 2,000 gallons a minute.
Just one well?
One well.
And how many wells do you have out there again?
18.
18 wells. So if you're looking at $600,000 a well, you're into it for a lot of money.
You're into it for a lot of money, and it takes a long time to amortize the cost of that well. So water farming is very expensive sometimes.
All right. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Hello, caller.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. Is there any way that the waste treatment plant that they have set up in every city, hopefully, is there any way they can recycle that water, waste treatment plants, like the sewer water and all that, and use it for the farms? Or will that destroy the product itself? And I would think it would be a good idea to do that. Probably someone's already thought of it, but by recirculating the water from the waste treatment plants or the sewer water and some type of a filter where they can reuse the water circulating and use that for farm water, and then I think they probably could use that to send it to the farmers, throughout the valley, by using that type of system where they can just some type of a filter where they can just use the sewer water. I don't know if it's good or bad, as far as helping the farmers, but it would probably cut down the cost I would think. So I'm not a genius or anything like that, but I think that's a good idea they can do that.
Okay, that's a good point. But the thing you have to consider is the sewer water is a long, long ways from our farm, and you have to transport that water. And there's another concern is food safety. Food safety is being really applied to the agricultural industry right now, because people get diseases and they get infections and they get problems from consuming food that's contaminated by the water that's used to produce it. So we have to be very careful about that. Our water is tested continually, and if there's any bacteria in that water, we can't use it to grow the crops that we grow.
How do you test the water?
Okay, we send that water to labs here in Fresno, and they tell us if it's got E. coli or it's got any kind of bacteria in it that's unacceptable. And if we use that water for farming, we may have our product condemned, and we can't sell it.
Okay, and how often do you send it out, Spiro?
It's very frequent. The parameters that food safety has created over the past couple of years have forced us even to sample water that comes from the canal that we use on our ranch. Not only our groundwater, but canal water, which is less likely to have the bacteria that's common.
The groundwater is less likely?
The water from the canal.
From the canal is less likely to be contaminated than the groundwater.
Yeah, but we're using.
You're using both.
We're using both, but we're having to sample both constantly.
Yeah, a bit for obvious reasons.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Goes without saying. Okay. Chuck Dees is the guest here today, along with Spiro Stephanopoulos. They own the family farm out there on the west side, growing a lot of things, and so the effects of the drought on their farm and others here in the Central Valley is the topic today. 436-MeTV, option 11. Back in just a moment.
Retro TV, your home for classic television. The greatest shows in history are here for you to enjoy. Join Cosby and Culp as secret agent men in I Spy. Ride along the Ponderosa with the Cartwrights in Bonanza. Hit the beat with Joe Friday in Dragnet. And that's not all. Retro TV offers endless fun and excitement for the whole family to enjoy. Retro TV, the best in classic television.
You can find Retro TV on over-the-air channel 13.4.
So many rules and regulations as far as growing crops and testing the water and making sure that it is safe, not only to drink, but to use to grow crops. I mean, it's a valid point. Let's roll some more videotape out there from the family farm, from the Stephanopoulos family here in the Central Valley. Farm's been out there for how long, Spiro, and your family's name there?
The farm was established in 1927, and that was when my grandfather had returned from a period after moving back to Greece. He had come as a teenager in 1903. And he did various things. One thing he was most known for was he worked in a hotel, the Waldorf Astoria Hotel.
Right.
But not to get too off track, he migrated here. He met my grandmother, and this is my mother's parents.
Okay. That's the cantaloupe patch right there, right?
That's
and
correct,
you guys, they're actually picking up picking cantaloupes, and we got a call coming in. Let's take this call and I'll ask you some more questions about this. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, I got a couple of questions for your knowledgeable guest. You were saying that the canal water has to be tested. Now, I guess you're talking about the aqueduct, or are you talking about canals like we know them here in the city confines? That would be the canal like that runs through town. I know the aqueduct is much larger. That's one of my questions. Another one of my questions is testing the water for contamination. If the water isn't pure enough to use for, like, obviously melons, you don't want to water melons with contaminated water because the water is practically unchanged. But what about the nuts on the pistachio tree? Can you use like substandard, not saying nuts, substandard, but less than quality water. Say the water may be a little bit skewed with bacteria, or perhaps maybe it's too alkaline or whatever. Can that be applied to the trees that produce the nuts? Because there's got to be some kind of a natural filtration process that goes on for that tree to create those nuts. The questions for your guests. Thank you very much.
Well, the two sources of water we use are either from the ground or from the California aqueduct. We don't really have any other sources. So the quality of water we're using is either one or the other.
It's either contaminated or it's not.
Well, the water from
Isn't that right, or am I off base on that?
The water from the aqueduct can be used on crops because the bacteria is not systemic. It does not get into the fruit. Where it gets into the contamination is on the outside of the product. And that's where we get the contamination that we see in the cantaloupes. And you won't find it in pistachios. It'll never be in pistachios. But only from food handling do you get this contamination. And if the water is contaminated and the people are using contaminated water, their hands touch this product that they're harvesting.
Right.
That's where the bacteria
Broccoli, you
comes
can touch the broccoli. You grow broccoli out there. You can't have contaminated water on broccoli.
No,
That's right.
There's no way.
We use gloves to harvest that.
Yeah,
and
it's
those
amazing.
people have to wash their hands when they use the lavatory. All those things are very, very carefully monitored.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, I was wondering, in the cities you have land use restrictions telling you that you can build commercial here, offices there. Do you see that coming to farmland where you can only put crops of certain types here or there, or limit the number of crops in an area? Thank you very much. Bye.
No, the limitation on crops, we don't have any regulations that limit what we can grow. We have all kinds of limitations on how we grow it, and that's the restraining thing that's concerning us at this time.
Yeah. Let me read one more thing from the National Geographic. I want to ask you about groundwater specifically, and maybe Spiro or Chuck, either one of you is fine to answer this as we roll another piece of videotape here, and we're looking at more video of cantaloupes there, right? The cantaloupes,
yes.
or no?
Yes,
yeah,
it's the
looks like it,
cantaloupe.
yeah.
Yes.
Unlike those in other western states, Californians know little about their groundwater supply because well drilling records are kept secret from public view, and there is no statewide policy limiting groundwater use. Is that a true statement coming from the National Geographic?
Well, I don't know that the drilling records are a secret, but the drilling of water requires a permit. And permits are...
Where do you get the permit? State of California?
You get this permit from the state of California. And so that is not a secret record.
Yeah, okay. So they're a little off base there, it seems. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes. How much snowpack and rain will it take without worrying about recharging the groundwater, but to alleviate this problem?
Well, we're going to have a lot of... We're going to have a lot of rain, a lot of snowfall to recharge the aquifers. Water in the aquifer comes from many sources and over a long, long period of time. Water in the aquifer could be very, very old water.
You're talking thousands of years old, probably,
yes,
in some cases.
In some cases. In other words, we can't recharge the aquifer overnight. I mean, it takes a long time to recharge the aquifer. And if we draw it down too far, and it takes a long time to recharge, the expense of drawing it from the ground becomes very costly.
Are you worried that, a couple of questions about the groundwater, are you worried, Spiro, that farmers, not only your family farm, but others around the state of California, are depleting the groundwater supply to the point that, you know, because like Chuck just said, we can't replenish that water overnight. It takes years for it to build back up.
Well, that is the concern. Nobody can specifically say how much is being depleted, but that is the concern.
But if you don't do it, the family farm doesn't get the water.
That's right.
So it's almost like a catch-22. Okay, we don't want to deplete the system, but we don't want our farm going without water because... Yeah.
That's right. We've had to use different methods of conserving water, it's very frustrating to not obtain the water that we need every year to grow the amount of crops or the size or the volume of produce we'd like to every year. It's very frustrating for everybody, but at the same time, we're not going to get mad and crawl in a hole. We're going to devise ways to either minimize our acreage, or we're going to devise ways to use less water on crops, whether it's our trees or whether it's our sweet corn that requires a lot of water.
As you know, state lawmakers now in Sacramento are contemplating whether or not they should pass a measure, or the governor should sign a measure that would regulate the amount of groundwater either a farm or an institution can actually retrieve. Would you be in agreement with that?
Well, to what degree is the question. And I know some people say that, okay, you have an acre, you can only have a quarter foot of water from a well. And if that's the case, we will have to decrease the size of our farm terrifically. And it's gonna mean that food production is gonna be diminished hugely.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that we use to conserve water or use less is by using drip irrigation. Drip irrigation, for instance, on tomatoes. In the past, with furrow irrigation, you could only get about 40 tons maximum if you're a super farmer. Now, super farmers are getting 75 and 80 tons per acre. That's the difference in the method of irrigation that's being used.
Okay, Chuck Dees is here along with Spiro Stephanopoulos, talking about the family farm that grows a lot of crops out there on the west side. And the west side, as you know, has been devastated by a dust bowl, a drought, no water, well, zero allocation actually from the feds this year on that water out there on the west side. 436-MeTV, option 11. Back with your calls in a moment.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
You know, there's no doubt about it. Owning a family farm is a business. You have to run it like a business. So the question is, has the drought and the lack of having enough water, has it gotten to the point, Spiro, where your production, producing crops, you're producing fewer crops this year or in the past couple of years, because we're in the fourth year of the drought now, and have you lost revenue because of it?
No, not necessarily. Well, from one aspect, we've been forced to spend a lot of money on foliar nutrients so that we can maximize yields on our crops.
So you're not producing fewer crops because of the lack of water?
We're actually growing less acreage of the crops. The crops have always been the 5 or 6 crops that we always grow every year.
Okay.
But we are minimizing the acreage on some of these crops because of the lack of water.
And you are getting enough water despite the drought. Is that right?
Okay, well, let me interject. We are being very selective about the crops we grow. We consider, first of all, how much water is it going to take, and then we also consider how much revenue do you get when you use X amount of water. So we're trying to maximize the efficiency of the water by selecting the crops that produce the most value with the least amount of water.
So you are getting enough water for the amount of crops that you're producing.
We're making it work.
You're making it work.
We're making it work. And
with the groundwater that you're getting and the water from the aqueduct, you're making it work.
We're making it work because long ago, 10 years ago, we knew that this day was coming. And so when we knew that this day was coming, we began to make preparations. We have interconnected every one of our wells so that any one well can deliver any acre on that farm. So we can redistribute the water to where we can get the maximum utilization out of it.
Yeah, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. I don't mind doing that. Whose fault is it? You said 10 years ago you guys knew this was coming. One day it would come. You didn't know exactly when. Whose fault is it? Is it state lawmakers, federal lawmakers, the lack of storage? Who's to blame here?
Well, if you want to cast blame, I know you asked Bureau this question, if you want to cast blame, it can be on a number of things, including lawmakers and including people who have special interests, including people who don't want reservoirs. We need more water storage. We need to be more effective. We need to do the things that make everybody happy. The environmentalists, they want the water for the fish. The farmers want water. The people in the cities want water. Everybody wants water. We have to figure out an equitable way to redistribute the water we have and make sure that we have water. We don't want water running out to the ocean. We want to store it for future use. And the way we do that is we build reservoirs that can hold the water, and we conserve water.
What are your thoughts on that, Spiro?
Well, in the last 40 years, it seems that a drought has been almost inevitable every decade. Every 10 to 12 years, it seems that we've been put in a similar situation that we are now. And I feel that 30 years ago, provisions should have been made. The temperance flats, perhaps, we should have made we should have created some dams, and we should have made provisions long ago because of this perpetual inevitability that's occurred every 10 to 12 years.
You have to consider, too, that the population in California is growing at the rate of 2% per year. And in 40 years, at 2%, you're going to double the population of the state of California. Guess what? More and more water is needed just to keep the people going.
Who's winning the war? Is it the environmentalists?
Well, now, you're getting into politics now. And
well, a little bit.
I'm not sure I want to venture into that. We feel a little bit handicapped. Farmers are not a big voice in the political arena. And
they can be, though, if they bind together.
They can be if they bind together, and they can be if there's no food in the grocery store.
Yeah, if there's no food in the grocery store, you're gonna be a big force to deal with, I'm sure. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I think some of the blame has to be put towards, well, really a lot of it is misguided legislators and so forth. I mean, you have a $68 billion high-speed rail that's only going to get you from Fresno to Bakersfield, and think about $68 billion being put towards, expanding how we can, store our water and so forth. We have infrastructure which farmers need, roads, highways, and so forth, to get their crops to the stores and to exporters and so forth. And yet the infrastructure of our state has also declined. So you have, I think our legislators have really let us down in those types of things. They just haven't gotten their priorities straight.
Well, maybe
the state has been synonymous with drought. You can just go back to decades and so forth. We've always had droughts in the 70s and the 60s and so forth. It's like we just haven't prepared for them.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. He's absolutely correct. As I said earlier, we've seen it almost every 10 to 12 years. And
do you think it's also a lack of understanding from most people, specifically those in Washington and perhaps Sacramento?
Well, I think education is a big thing, and I think that the voters are not informed, the legislators are not informed. Some very, very smart people go to Washington, and they do some very dumb things, and we're the victims.
Yeah.
The key word is priority. He's absolutely right. We haven't prioritized what's important for the country.
Yeah. There was a recent article that I read on the internet about Pine Flat Dam. If it ever does get built, I mean it's years down the road, but somebody was saying, well, if they build it, it's not going to be used for more storage. It'll be used to build up the environment and the wildlife and the fish. It won't be used specifically for storage. Here we go. The dam hasn't even been built, and it's already a political football.
Well, that can be a problem too. And we realize that the environment needs water, and the farmers need water, the people need water. Everybody needs water. We have to figure out a way to be fair about the water that we have is distributed to wherever it needs to go.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, guys. Excuse me. My family began in the pub business, the agricultural pub business, in 1933. And we're looking the wrong way for water. The only way that works.
Turn it up. Oh, I can hear him fine. Okay. Caller, I'm sorry we turned you off. I could hear you fine, but you got to get off speakerphone. Just call back at 436 MeTV option 11. Sorry about that. I could hear him fine. How about you? I don't know. Another call? Okay. Well, let's see what happens here. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Whoops. Nope. No call. I guess it was a false alarm. You know, I want to get back into the groundwater situation. And even if state regulators decide to go ahead and restrict how much groundwater you can get, the article from the National Geographic says that the regulations wouldn't kick in until 2020. The groundwater would not be replenished until 2040, maybe 2050. Is that how long it'll take?
Well, that could be accurate. I don't know. But let me tell you, when they start restricting the amount of groundwater or the water that we need for farming, there's going to be a huge economic impact on Fresno County, on the state of California, and the whole nation.
All right, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, Fresno's the breadbasket that feeds the world, but this drought is affecting all Californians. Has anyone considered the possibility of desalination plants? They'd be funded by raising our sales tax if necessary, and it'll be passed on, I'm sure. But what about that idea?
Okay, desalination, that's a great idea, and it'll be beautiful for Los Angeles. You got to have the salt water close to where you're going to use it. If you try to transport water from the ocean to here, and you're going to get into some extreme expense. It's true that you can...
Yeah, but can it be done?
It can be done. Yes, it can, but it's extremely expensive. They figure at $2,000 an acre foot, yes, we can desalinate water. You got to remember, when you desalinate water, you got waste. You got to put all that salt someplace. And you got to put that salt back in the ocean, and then you got to re-desalinate it. Nature does a beautiful water of desalinating the ocean, and it comes in the form of weather. And that's where we get the fresh water. All the fresh water comes from those sources. And it's desalination is great. Cities are going to be going to that, especially cities that are close to the ocean.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, we're talking with Chuck Dees and Spiro Stephanopoulos. We're talking about the Stephanopoulos family farm out there on the west side. We're going to talk about the devastation to other places out there on the west side. 436 MeTV option 11. Hey, if you've tried calling in and haven't gotten through, call back. We got an open line. Back in a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
We're back here talking about the drought. An open line is available here, 436 MeTV option 11. If the state regulators decide, hey, you can only take so much water out of the ground, how is that going to affect your business?
It's going to affect us tremendously. It's going to affect everybody. We're going to be forced to grow much less acreage than what we're doing now.
Which means you might have to lay some workers off, maybe?
Oh,
definitely.
Whole bunch.
Yeah.
Whole bunch. You won't believe this, but on our farm, which is large, but it's not the largest, we employ as many as 2,000 people, and they get a check every Friday. And all of a sudden, we're down to 1,000 people. Guess what? We got little towns like Mendota and Firebaugh and Kerman. They're going to shrink in size. The people are going to be hungry. Right now, we got food wagons coming out there to feed the hungry people, even now.
Yeah, it's amazing. What video are we looking at right now? We have a phone call coming in. Just go ahead and check that out, Spiro. Look on the monitor there.
This is my sales office here.
Okay.
Second story of the sales of the building.
Okay.
And we're looking out across the street. There's a small pistachio orchard that was just recently planted.
Great. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, let me ask Shapiro, what do you think these new farmers or farmers who want to get into it, which was a lot different 40, 50 years ago, do you see a lot of the small farms going under rather than big farms? Because I think the bigger farms can grow different crops, year after year, or their main crops, as we say, but it has to be, let's say a farmer has 2,000 acres versus a couple of hundred acres. Do you think all those, the ones who are small, are going under now because they can't keep up with demand, or the regulations that the government puts on them and whatnot? So I know a lot about, I'm not too sure years ago where probably an acre was maybe $500 or an acre, and now I don't know what it is, maybe over 2,000 an acre, I don't know. But at the same time, like in your big farm that you pack out and all that, your cost has to be quite a bit, but at the same time you have so many products that you're able to make a demand on it. I mean, I can see the bigger farmers making it where the small farmers are not being able to make it. So am I right in that?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. That is true. We've seen a lot of smaller farmers depleting, going under. The reason the larger farmers have been prevalent up until now versus the smaller farmers is because we've had the manpower, we've had the ability to do a little bit more that keeps us sort of afloat. But that's been the trend, and that's sort of a pattern that we've seen over the years recently, that the smaller guys are not able to sustain much because of many things, not only the water, but because of the labor and because of the increased cost of land and rent, other things that... but if we fall into a situation where parameters are going to be put on our groundwater and we're not going to have any allocation, we're going to fall into the same trap eventually.
I want to roll a piece of videotape, and it's called the Drought-Stricken Almond Orchard. And I want to talk about other farmers on the west side. How bad is it with them?
Well, with the almond farmers, it's really bad. And this almond orchard that you see here is not ours, but it is a person.
But this is a drought-stricken orchard. Lack of water is what you see here.
Okay, that excellent video doesn't show the impact as well as you see it in person. Those leaves are actually dying. Those trees will not be used next year. That acreage there is going to be removed this winter, and those trees will no longer be productive.
Will it be a dust bowl out there?
It's going to be that particular area is going to be a dust bowl. Almond trees require pure water. Can't have any contaminants. Well water is not suitable for almond trees.
It's not.
Not at all.
So you got to use surface water.
You got to have surface water for almond trees, or they decline rapidly.
Yeah. So where is that farm? Where was that? Where were those trees?
That farm is in Three Rocks, which is on
close to you.
Close to us on Highway 33. It's very close to us. It's in the very richest farmland in California.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
I'm going to ask your guests, is there some kind of legal precedent that helps illuminate this issue, which seems like it's going to become a legal issue in the future as water scarcity comes to the forefront of the public consciousness? The property you own, don't you own the mineral rights to those properties? And don't the mineral rights include the water that sits under you, or the oil that sits under you, or the uranium, or the gold, or any of these things? Is there a legal precedent stating specifically you own the land, you own the water under there, or has the government interceded?
That's a great question.
It's public domain or whatever.
Great question. I don't know who can answer that, but that might be the question of the day right there.
That is a great question, and I bet you that's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. Property rights is going to be a big fight, and water causes wars.
How do you answer that caller, Spiro?
Well, we're going to do whatever it takes. We're going to fight. We've been there a long time. We have to fight for the people that started this company and for the people that make this company run. This company's not run by Chuck, my father, and myself. It's run by the 2,000 or the 2,300 people that
run it.
Yeah. And we want to preserve these families that belong to the people that work for this ranch and for the people that started this ranch back in the early 1900s. Whatever it takes, we have to do it.
Do you own the rights to the minerals on your property, including the water?
Yes.
Yes.
You do. That's how it works. That's pretty much law.
Yes.
That's the thing that's been law for decades.
Yeah, and so that's going to be the big fight in court maybe in the future.
That's going to be a huge
with
fight.
every farmer, not just yourself. Who owns the rights to this mineral, that mineral, the water, and I don't know why that would be a fight if that's already law.
Well, it is already law, and then I suppose people are going to try to change it.
Challenge it.
They're going to challenge it, or whatever they're going to do. But when that happens, you're going to see some really down and dirty activity.
Yeah. Okay, Chuck, talking to Chuck Dees and Spiro Stephanopoulos, talking about the effects of the drought here on Connect with Me. You're watching us. We have an open phone line, 436-MeTV, option 11. Back in a moment.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
Back here talking about the Stephanopoulos family farm, been around since 1927. I want to roll a piece of videotape, and it's called Sulfur Acidation Equipment. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one to me. What are we looking at here, Spiro or Chuck?
Okay, what this is an installation on a new well. This is what we call a sulfur burner, and what it does is it creates an acid called sulfurous acid, which is H2SO3, and we use it to alter the pH of the water. The water from the wells is around 8, even the surface water is around 8.
What's the pH in the water? What does that stand for? What is that?
Well, pH is the acidity or alkalinity of the water.
So it tells you how much acid is in there and how much you need to take out?
Well, what happens is we're on the alkaline side of 7. 7 is neutral. It's neither acid nor salt. And when we get down, the plants like water at around 6.5 to 7. And rainwater, believe it or not, is 5.8. It's acidic. We call it acid rain to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But what water from rain helps to decontaminate the soil. And what we're trying to do is to make the soil much more friendly to the plants by adding this acid. And we've only done it this year, and it's been very, very effective.
So the goal with this machine is to remove any excess acid. Is that right?
No.
Not necessarily. The science behind this is to treat the water so that the water can treat the soil.
Oh, okay.
We're adding acid to the water.
You're adding acid, not removing it per se.
We're trying to bring the pH down to a friendly level for the trees, the plants, so that we can maximize the production.
Plants and trees are going to absorb nutrients more efficiently and more effectively when the pH is within a suitable range for those.
Another piece of videotape, on-demand motor control. I'm not sure what that is. You guys can explain this one as well.
Okay, we're talking about variable frequency drive. In other words,
in layman's terms.
Okay, what that does, normally in a household you get 60 hertz.
Okay.
Or 60 cycles per second.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we get our electricity. They call it AC. And what we do is we alter the AC or the frequency so we can slow down or speed up a motor. And what we do is we have a pressure transducer that senses the pressure in the pipeline, and when the pressure gets too high, the motors slow down. When it gets too low, they speed up, and they can go all the way up to 60 hertz.
So it's a sensor in there that can determine that on the spot. You don't have to worry about. You know, we're looking at all this equipment here, and we take it for granted. But you're talking, okay, am I out of bounds here, Spiro? Are we talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for all this equipment here?
Absolutely. Some of these
millions. Are we talking millions here?
Yes. Some of these wells that we've set up have cost by drilling the hole at the depth of 1,200 feet, by adding the pump, by adding the power and the electric motor, which could be 800 horsepower electric motor, so that we can pump 3,700, 4,000 acre feet per minute. We're talking about close to $1 million per setup.
My goodness. Another call coming in. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, would it take an act of Congress to start seeding the clouds again like they used to in the old days?
What's that now?
Seeding
the clouds, so there's more water that passes by untapped.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. You know, that's,
I'm not a weather guy. I have no idea.
That's an idea. I don't know. We can alter the weather. It's kind of strange. It seems like the San Joaquin Valley is the only part of the United States that hasn't had a flood alert.
Yeah, look what's happened the last couple of days here in the southeast, or I mean the southwest part of our country, with the floods just in the southern part, just not too far from us.
Yeah.
And yet we don't get well, we got a drop, and that was about it the other day.
Yeah, the mountains are barren. They don't have any. There's no water stored in the mountains.
Right.
Yes.
And so, let me ask you, Spiro, because your father's heavily involved in this, and I know you said he doesn't run the farm, but there's a whole cast of characters that actually run that place. But is anyone in your family, or you, Chuck, concerned in the next 5 years that your farm is going to be in jeopardy because of the lack of water? Not now, because you have the water now, but what may happen in the future? Are you concerned?
We're concerned for even what's going to happen next year. Not only 5 years from now, but what's going to happen next year. If this continues, it's going to become more difficult every year to see what's going to happen from day to day. So we have to do whatever we can on a daily basis. We have to communicate with as many people as we can. We have to use the resources that we have that are available to us and put them in the most manageable and use them most optimally.
Corn. Am I looking at corn there?
That's right.
Yeah. And corn needs a lot of water, I assume.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
So, I mean, you must feel like one of the lucky ones to survive out there on the west side.
Well, I'll tell you what. Spiro's dad and I talk frequently about the worst case scenarios and the best case scenarios and every other scenario in between.
Give us the worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario is they shut down these wells and they don't have any allocation from surface water. We are out of business. That's worst case scenario.
True.
That's true.
That is absolutely true. And not only us, every other farmer out there is going to be in the same boat.
Yeah. How many farmers out there right now that have survived this like you have?
Well, many have survived, but this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning.
But many more have fallen by the wayside. Isn't that true?
Many small farmers have fallen by the wayside simply because they didn't prepare or they didn't have the resources to properly prepare.
Yeah. Chuck Dees, good to see you. Come back again.
Okay.
Good to have you, my friend. All right. Spiro, tell your family I said hello.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you for taking the time to come in today. Chuck Dees and Spiro Stephanopoulos talking about the drought. Another day, another Connect With Me show coming your way tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.